The character of Prophet Muhammad, SAW. The Prophet was noted for superb eloquence and fluency in Arabic. He was remarkable in position and rank. He was an accurate, unpretending, straightforward speaker. He was well versed in Arabic and quite familiar with the dialects and accents of every tribe. He spoke with his guests using their own accents and dialects. He mastered and was quite eloquent at both Bedouin language as well as the clarity and the decorated splendid speech of the townspeople. Above all, there was the help of Allah embodied in the revealed verses of the Quran. His stamina, endurance and forgiveness, while he was in a commanding position, his patience and firmness in unfavorable conditions, were all talents. Attributes and qualities Allah himself had given him. Even wise men have their shortcomings, but Allah's messenger saw, unlike everybody, the more he was hurt or injured, the more gentle and patient he became. The more rudeness and ignorance anybody exercised against him, the more enduring he became. He was the last one to get angry and the first to be satisfied. His hospitality and generosity were matchless. His gifts and endowments manifest a man who does not fear poverty. His generosity would be at its extreme during Ramadan when the angel Jibril used to come to see him. Jibril used to visit him every night of Ramadan and review the Quran with him. Verily, Allah's messenger was more generous at giving bounty or charity than the blowing wind. His courage, his bravery and his might were distinct. He was the most courageous. He witnessed awkward and difficult times and stood fast at them. More than once, brave and daring men fled, yet he stood with full composure facing the enemy without turning his back. All brave men must have experienced fleeing once or have been driven off the battlefield at a time, except the Prophet He was the most modest person and far from being arrogant or proud. He forbade people to stand up for him as other people usually did for their kings. Visiting the poor, the needy and entertaining them were some of his habits. If a slave invited him, he would accept the invitation. He always sat among his friends if he were an ordinary person. The Prophet was the most truthful to his pledges, and it was one of his qualities to establish good and steady relationship with his relatives. He was the most merciful, gentle and sociable of all people. His way of living was the simplest one. Ill manners and indecency were two qualities completely alien to him. He was decent and did not call anybody names. He was not the sort of person who cursed or made noise in the streets. He did not exchange offense with others. He pushed back an offense or an error by forgiveness and overlooking. He did not allow others to walk behind him. He did not feel himself superior to others to walk behind him. He did not feel himself superior to others, not even to his slaves. As far as food or clothes were concerned, whoever served him would be served by him too. The sound of expressing disgust was never used by him towards any of his servant, nor did he ever blame his servant for something or leaving something undone. Loving the poor and the needy and entertaining them or participating in their funerals were the acts the Prophet always observed. He never showed disgrace to a poor man for his poverty. Once he was traveling with his companions, and when it was time to have food prepared, he asked them to slaughter a sheep. A man said, "I will slaughter it." Another said, "I will skin it out." A third one said, "I will cook it." So Allah's messenger said, "I will collect wood for fire." They said, "No, we will do that work. I know that you can do it for me, but I hate to be privileged." Allah hates to see a servant of his privilege to others. So, he went and collected firewood. He was always in full control of his temper and he never seemed angry unless it was necessary. He never got angry for himself nor did he avenge for himself. It was for Allah's sanctity and religion that he would be angry. Whenever he pointed a thing, he would do with his hand, and he would turn round to show surprise. If he were angry he would turn both his body and face aside. When he was pleased he cast his eyes down. His laughter was mostly smiling. It was then that his teeth were revealed like hailstones. He never spoke unless it was something closely relevant to him. He confirmed the brotherhood relationship among his companions, and thus he made them intimate and did not separate them or implant enmity among them. Those who were honorable with their peoples. His cheerfulness was never withdrawn at anyone's face, even at those whom he warned his people from or those whom he himself was on the alert. He visited friends and inquires about people's affairs. He confirmed what was right, and criticized the unpleasant, and tried to undermine it. He was moderate in all affairs. He was equal to others and was not privileged. He would never act carelessly, lest others should get neglectful. Each situation was dealt with in its proper due. Righteousness was his objective. He was never short of it or indifferent to it. People who sat next to him were the best of their people, and the best of them all were, for him, those who were most caring. For him, the greatest one and the highest in rank were the best at providing comfort, cooperation and help.